Record. Okay, thanks for coming in today. Receive your application. So we've got a few questions to ask you, and then hopefully you've got some work to show us now. Okay, good, excellent. So this is Andy, my colleague at the agency. So he's going to ask you a few questions. I've got some questions as well.
Okay, so Forhad, what skills and experience do you have that make you suitable for a position with us?
Glorious creative. The skills I have, I'm decent at being creative. I'm good in Photoshop, good in Illustrator. I can work in a variety of disciplines, so I'm decent at typography, image manipulation, illustration. I'm quite good at image correction, that kind of thing. I'm decent at photography. But I don't know, I think altogether I've got things that make me right for the position.
Okay, so could you give me an example where you've used photography and Photoshop to create something?
Yeah, I can show you one if you want.
Okay. So can you tell us what you did?
So what I did was I took photographs. So the project was illustration, but it was photo illustration, so I combined photography and illustration. I hand drew the characters from my childhood and entered them into like where I am now. So like brought them with me to like my current day. And so I took the photographs, drew them on paper, scanned them in, and then using Photoshop, I manipulated them so that they seemed like they fit in with the surroundings, having them shadows and reflections.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the characters and what the concept and what the idea was?
The concept was me, me when I was a child and what I was watching and what I was up to, like inputted into my current day-to-day life. So that's Ed from Ed, and Eddie, and that's me on a bus. Well, I remember I used to watch Ed and Eddie like every day pretty much. And now I don't watch that kind of stuff, but I'm on buses all the time. But I've brought him with me. That's Mandy, who's basically kind of a bad guy in the show. And I've got her in an alleyway to kind of show like, now that I've grown up and that's where I'm staying with bad guys. And there's Mandy, he's a bad guy from my childhood. And the last one, that's the view out of college, and that's the Codename Kids Next Door, the tree house that they have, which is like a secret spy base that they build. And that's just there, just put it into the distance. I did that one because the rest of them are characters, and I thought maybe I'll do one that's like background, like backdrop style. And then that came with that.
Okay, so in terms of your traditional art skills, what are your strengths?
My traditional art skills, I'm not the strongest. I'm more of a digital creator. I'm not the strongest with my traditional art skills. I'd say I'm decent at paper and pencil, but it's always going to be, it's rough sketching. But it's always stuff, whenever I do traditional art skills stuff, it's always stuff that I know isn't going to be perfect. But it's like steps to making my final bit.
So once you've created something in a traditional sense, how do you go about making digital versions of that?
So what I'll do is I'd get feedback on my traditional one, see what people like, what people don't like, what I can improve. And then from there, when I'm going to my digital one, when I'm progressing it into the digital one, I'll use their feedback.
Okay. Can you tell me a bit about your skills with Illustrator?
Yeah, so for my first year in college, I didn't touch Photoshop. Photoshop used to scare me. So I was on Illustrator all the time. But over time I did get into Photoshop, but because in the first year I didn't, because we used to have, one of my college teachers was Jo, and she wasn't big on Photoshop, so we used to always use Illustrator. And then when Jo left, it was kind of like trying to bridge the gap for Photoshop. But I was still on Illustrator a lot, and I gained like a lot of skills on it.
Okay, so in terms of your work, can you tell me a little bit about how you approach proofing and how you make sure you've prepared something that is ready for exhibition?
The way I'd make sure it's ready for exhibition is I'd get a second opinion. So I'd do it, I'd ask an opinion, and from someone who like my teachers or from some like a different teacher, not another student. I'd ask for an opinion from someone with more experience, and from then I'd know whether or not it's ready for exhibition.
Okay, so so if someone had a look at your work and suggested maybe a number of revisions to be made, and you didn't agree with it, how would you cope with that situation?
Depending on who it is. If it was a client who wanted revisions made, I'd change it. But if it was my work and it was something that was like a personal project to me, and I felt that the revisions did not need making, so say it was like little quirks to it that I thought that weren't necessary to remove, maybe removing them would make it look more professional, but to me it was right the way it was. I wouldn't remove them. But say I was doing work for a client and they said, no, I don't like this, and oh, this is wrong, I change it.
Okay, cool. And in a more general context, what do you do, what type of things you do to extend your understanding of creativity, and how do you develop your creativity and understanding of it?
I like art quite a bit. Even though I'm not the best at it, I do like art, so I do go galleries, and I follow a lot of art on social media and artists on social media. So to extend my creativity, sometimes I do speak to people who are artists and who do art, whether it's the most abstract of art or it's
okay.
general art.
What artists do you like?
So there's this one artist, she's called Joy Miesi, and she does like, it's like line based, but it's like curves. She draws on clothes, she draws on a canvas, and there's one piece of art that drew me to her was she made a piece of art called, I think it was called Student Debt, and the price of the artwork goes up with the amount of student debt she owes over time. So it changes, so if you went to buy the original print, the price changes, and I saw that and I thought, that's a great idea, that. And since then I just thought, it's great.
So I've been reading through what you've sent in to us with your letter and your CV, and you talk about a few things here about all the last couple of years you've been doing a mix of projects, whether it's art design, adverts, typography, graffiti, illustration, book design, vinyl, packaging, lots and lots of things that you put there. But in particular, that app design, can you give us a bit more information about
So for the app design, I've not included it in my portfolio because at the end of it I wasn't too pleased with the work and I needed to make some changes. But with the app design, the project it was a virtual reality app, so we had to make an app that integrated virtual reality into it, and it had to be travel based. So for my app design, I made one that was for Tokyo travel, and so the virtual reality aspect of it was going to be that you'd see the streets of Tokyo, you know, like the sights and that kind of thing. On my app, I think I made 4 or 5 pages, 4 or 5 screens, and it was decent. It went off the colour scheme of greys and reds, and I mean I can show you it.
What software did you use to create it?
I used Photoshop.
Okay, so just while you're looking for some files, I'll ask you another question. So you make a statement in here, so with your previous experience and expertise, you believe you're going to make a contribution to the business and have an immediate impact. So what, do you have any ideas how you would contribute and the impact that you'd make?
The impact I'd make is, I think as a junior creative, the impact I'll make will be lesser than like as a senior creative would, but I think I'd make the impact in the sense that I'd bring in a different audience. Because I'm a younger person, I think I'd appeal to more younger people to come to us for our graphic design, for their graphic design needs. I think I'd push it a lot through social media and get a lot more younger people. So I have friends who make music and they always look for art covers for like their SoundCloud or their kind of like album, that kind of thing. But they'd never go to like an actual design agency because they always think that maybe it's not that big. Whereas if they saw me and they saw someone young there and I could pull them in, I could speak to them and say, look, hang on, we'll do it.
So why is social media important to a business in terms of like graphic design and stuff?
I think with it being 2018, social media being such a big thing, because it's everywhere. I mean, a couple of years ago you'd never think that there'd be that many ads on social media. Like I remember Facebook when I was a kid, there's no ads. But now there's an ad, and sometimes the ads are a bit mental, like you'd be thinking of Jaffa Cakes, and next thing you know you're on Facebook, Jaffa Cakes appear, and you never told anyone. But the way social media is if you're not on it, you're really losing out on a massive market, because it's going to connect you to people that are way further out than you think. I mean, Glory's Creative right now is Manchester based. On social media, we can get clients from around the world.
Okay, how do you work in teams?
The way I work in teams is, currently I work with B&Q, and we work by department. And in our department, we've got 4 guys. We have to work in teams to timetabling and working around, because we have a big saw. We cut 84 sheets of wood, and we have to work in teams to make sure that the saw's covered at all times, because it's a massive aspect of B&Q. Working teams to make sure that we're always putting stuff out and making sure that our side of the store looks neat. Because we work outside and not many people go outside, it's normally just us. A lot of the time everyone sets each other a job and make sure it's done. And on my department especially, we have a little rule where you don't go home until the job's finished. You don't leave it for the person the next day.
Okay, so say for instance, you had a brief and you was working to a really tight time scale. How would you ensure quality whilst working under pressure?
So whilst working under pressure, to ensure quality, I'd probably just be working late into the night for that. But to ensure quality, I'd get feedback as quick as I can. I know there's people that don't constantly reply, that I can just email and they'll give me feedback within that day. But also to ensure quality, I wouldn't spend too much time on the original mock-ups. I'd spend more time on the final designing of it and the end product rather than at the start. But I would put time in at the start. I wouldn't try and perfect that. You know, the starting sketches and the you know, to get into the progression or to get to the end product.
Okay, so another question for me then. So a range of work experience, and in one of them in particular you mentioned about health and safety checks and awareness of health and safety. So obviously health and safety is important in the workplace. Have you had a time where your training in health and safety has allowed you to avoid an issue, or if you want to